Today we're going to talk about dative case. That is the case that you need when you're dealing with sentences with two objects. This lesson will work best if you have this video playing in one browser tab and the Google assignment open in another browser tab, or if you can play the video on another screen like an iPad or phone and have the Google Doc open on your laptop. We've looked at lots of sentences where we reviewed the nominative and accusative cases, where the nominative case tells us who's doing an action, and the accusative case tells us what's having the action done to it. For example, ich kaufe ein blaues Hemd. Ich is the subject. We know that answers the question who or what is verbing. In this case, who or what is buying something. And then ein blaues Hemd is the direct object in the accusative case. That is, it's who or what is being bought. Another example would be meine Mutter sieht ein schönes Kleid. My mother is doing the seeing, and the Kleid is being seen. Wir mögen die Stiefel aus Leder. We are doing the liking, and the boots are being liked. But what do you do in a sentence where you have two objects, such as meine Oma gibt mir einen Pulli? We know that meine Oma is the one who's doing the action, who's verbing, she's the subject. But we have two objects, mir and einen Pulli. I'm not the most athletic person in the world, but if you'll permit me, we're going to go with a quick sports metaphor for this one. I have two images and you can choose your sport of preference. I have a quarterback throwing a ball to a wide receiver, and I have a runner passing a relay baton to another runner, to a relay teammate. In both of these images, the direction of movement is pretty clear. The ball goes from the quarterback to the wide receiver. The baton goes from the first runner to the second runner. We know that the direct object answers the question, what is being verbed? So in this case, what is being thrown? The football. What is being passed? The baton. And you can really see how it follows the direction of the arrow in both sentences. The indirect object indicates who's getting the direct object. In this case, the wide receiver is getting the football. The second runner is getting the baton. In English, we can indicate this with word order right after the verb. The quarterback throws the wide receiver the ball, or the first runner passes the second runner the baton. Or we can use the preposition to, as in the quarterback throws the ball to the wide receiver, or the first runner passes the baton to the second runner. In German, we indicate either of these scenarios using the dative case. So in the example that we looked at before, meine Oma gibt mir einen Pulli, we know that the verb is gibt, to give, and we already said we know that Oma is the one who's giving something. We know that because she's first in the sentence, like in English. We also know that because she's nominative case. We also know that what's being given is the sweater. We put that in the accusative case. That's where that einen comes in. And then who's getting the sweater? Well, I am. So I get to be in the dative case. In your Google Doc, you'll find some sentences that have two objects, and I would like you to mark them with an N, meaning nominative, for the subject of the sentence, an A, meaning accusative, for the direct object of the sentence, and a D, meaning dative, for the indirect object of the sentence. Let's do the first example together. The sentence is, Ich schenke meinem Freund einen Pulli aus Wolle zu seinem Geburtstag. If I look at the verb schenken, which means to give as a gift, I immediately know from the E ending in the conjugation that ich was the subject. If I ask myself, what is being given? Is it a friend, a sweater, or a birthday? Well, a sweater is being given, and the friend is the one who's getting the sweater. All of these other pieces of information, aus Wolle and zu seinem Geburtstag, are what we call prepositional phrases rather than objects. They don't play in here, I just put them there to distract you. Take a minute to complete numbers 2 through 5, pause your video, and when you come back, we'll check them together. In number 2, für den ersten Schultag kauft meine Mutter mir neue Schuhe. It's a little bit tricky because I've started the sentence with a time element, then the verb. Then you have your subject, meine Mutter, mir, the person who's getting the shoes, and then neue Schuhe, the direct object. In number 3, was kaufst du deiner Schwester zu Weihnachten? The subject is du. The person getting the present is deiner Schwester, and we don't know what the Schwester is getting. That's why we're asking a question. So the interrogative pronoun or question word was is standing in for the thing that we don't know that the sister will be getting. In number 4, mein Vater bringt mir einen Ring aus Silber aus Berlin. Mein Vater is the subject. The person getting the thing is mir, me, and the thing that's being given is einen Ring. And then the last one, number 5, wir geben unseren Eltern warme Socken aus Wolle. Wir is the subject, unseren Eltern is the indirect object, and warme Socken is the direct object. We use articles and pronouns in German to tell us what case something is in our sentence. You already practiced this some in German 1 when you learned nominative and accusative case. So you have a chart in your Google Doc where you can fill in your nominative, accusative, and if you know them, dative articles. Take a second to fill them in now, and then we'll go in and fill in the rest together. The nominative case articles are der and ein, die and eine, das and ein, and die, and I put keine because having eine, which means one thing, in a plural setting doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If having keine, which means no things, doesn't make sense to you, you could substitute meine here. For accusative case, der and ein change to den and einen, but all the rest of my articles stay the same as they were in the nominative case. Die and eine, das and ein, die and keine. For dative case, I'm sorry to say, everything is going to change on you. The masculine articles are dem and einem. The feminine articles are der and einer. The neutral articles are dem and einem. And the plural articles are den and keinen. I put here in parentheses plus n. That refers to if you have a plural that doesn't already get an n in it, and when it is dative, it will get an n. So for example, you know that the plural of Frau is Frauen, or the plural of Schwester is Schwestern. Those plurals already have an n on them, so this rule doesn't apply to them. The plural of Kind is Kinder. In the dative case, you would add an extra n onto that word, so it would be den Kindern in the dative case. You also have a chart on your Google Doc for the personal pronouns, which can be singular or plural, first, second, or third person. These are words like ich, du, er, sie, es. Take a second and fill in as many of the pronouns on your Google Doc as you can. Pause the video, and then come back here to check when you're ready. So you already know the nominative personal pronouns are ich, du, er, sie, and es are your third person pronouns. Wir, ihr, and plural sie or formal sie. You also should know your accusative personal pronouns. Mich, dich, ihn, sie, and es are your singular ones. So er has changed to ihn, sie and es stayed the same, just like der changed to den, but die and das stayed the same. Wir changed to uns. It works just like we and us in English. Ihr changed to euch, and plural sie stayed the same. For dative case, as with the articles, things get very different here. Ich in the dative case changes to mir, du changes to dir, changes to ihm, sie changes to ihr, es changes to ihm. Uns is the same in both accusative and dative case. Euch is the same in both accusative and dative case. And the plural pronoun to them would be ihnen. I also put on this chart possessive articles. These are words that show possession, as the name suggests. They are words like mein, dein, sein, ihr, sein, unser, euer, and ihr. I put a blank after each of these because remember that these words get the same endings as the words ein and kein from the definite and indefinite articles chart. So if I have a feminine noun that belongs to me, I would choose meine. And if I have a masculine accusative noun that belongs to me, I would choose meinen. So I take these endings and I plop them in these blanks according to the case that I need. There is a handy dandy hack for memorizing the contents of these charts. We call it Risi Nisi Merman. These sounds correspond to the endings of the articles for each case. So Risi stands for the R in der, the E in D, the S in das, and the E in D. Nisi stands for the N in den, the E in D, the S in das, and the E in D. And Merman stands for the M in dem, the R in der, the M in dem, and the N in den. Risi Nisi Merman is also found in the third person personal pronouns. Risi, sie, es, and plural sie. Nisi, ihn, sie, es, and plural sie. Merman, ihm, ihr, ihm, and ihnen. I hope that that little hack is helpful to you as you try to juggle all of this new information. Use those charts to help you fill in the blanks with the correct article ending or pronoun based on what we just discussed. Remember that you'll use nominative for whoever is verbing, whoever is buying something, whoever is giving something, and so on. Those are your Risi sounds. You'll use accusative case for whoever or whatever is being verbed, so being bought, being sent. That'll be your Nisi sounds. And then whoever is getting the direct object, you'll use your Merman sounds, your dative case, to indicate. Let's do number 1 together, and then you'll take some time to do 2 through 5 on your own. First, I have blank schenke mein blank Mutter für ihren Geburtstag ein blank neuen Rock. Without context, I know that a pronoun has to go here. I don't have a word beginning that's been given to me. I also see that the verb is conjugated as schenke. That implies the pronoun here had to be ich. The next thing is mein something Mutter. Ask yourself, is Mutter being given something as a gift, or is she being given as a gift? Well, it's not very polite to give people away as gifts, so let's assume that the mother is getting the gift. That makes her dative. Mutter is feminine, and in the dative case, the ending for feminine is er. So I choose meiner Mutter. That's the in Merman. Für ihren Geburtstag einen neuen Rock. The skirt here is being given as a gift. That makes a lot more sense. That makes it accusative, Nisi. I know that Rock is masculine, so I'm going to put einen neuen Rock. At this point, you'll pause the video to do numbers 2 through 5 on your own, and then come back and check. Welcome back. For number 2, your answer should be Du gibst deinem Bruder zu Weihnachten eine teure Sonnenbrille. For number 3, you should have an meinem Geburtstag bringen meine Freunde mir. I guessed that it was mir because it's my friends bringing the gift, so it makes sense that they would give them to me. Ein modisches Kleid. Remember, the word ein in the accusative case doesn't get any ending on it, so that space should be left intentionally blank. Number 4, am Valentinstag kauft seiner Freundin eine Hauskette als Gold. We knew that this needed to be because he's giving something to his girlfriend. And lastly, wir schicken am Wochenende unserem Opa ein T-shirt aus Baumwolle. I knew it was wir because we're sending something to our grandparents, and the en ending went with wir as well. Opa is getting the thing that makes him dative, the M in Merman. And then for t-shirt, it's das T-shirt. Remember that ein doesn't get an ending for neutral nouns in the accusative case. Next, I'm going to have you write some sentences of your own using nominative, accusative, and dative cases. Some common verbs that get to objects include kaufen, to buy something for someone, geben, to give something to someone, schicken, to send something to someone, schenken, to give something as a gift to someone, zeigen, to show something to someone, and bringen, to bring something to someone. I've tried to arrange these icons so that they resemble the sports metaphors from earlier. That is, whatever your verb is, the subject is passing the direct object onto the indirect object, kind of like the first runner is passing the baton to the second runner. This is not the typical word order that you're going to use for this in English. Just like you wouldn't say, I give the pants my father, you would say, I give my father the pants. We're going to use our cases to make these sentences make sense. For number 1, the process would be, ich schenke meinem Vater die Hose. Ich is the subject, it doesn't change. Schenke gets conjugated to go with ich. Meinem Vater is the second runner getting the thing, and die Hose is the direct object being given away in this case. Take a minute in your Google Doc to do numbers 2 through 5, and then we will check them together. Number 2 should be, du kaufst deiner Oma die Bluse. Number 3 should be, deine Oma kauft dir den Hut. Number 4 should be, Fritz gibt seiner Schwester das Kleid. And number 5 should be, mein Bruder bringt mir den Ring. If you have questions about any of this, type your questions in section 5 of your document, and I will try and address them in class this week. Thanks very much. Great job learning dative case.